So obviously people have heard it said, some of you said it, the living in a place of gratitude. What does that mean? Is it truly possible to just live with gratitude as an awareness that's part of everything else you do? I know I slip in and out of it because depending on what I'm doing, I don't keep it with me. I wish I could, but I don't. My mind shifts and goes, and then I'll have to remember and bring it back in. And so I'd love to hear and maybe talk about that a little bit this evening. And I know Dolores had asked that question a little bit. Did you have a little more on that, Dolores, to mention about gratitude?
Well, what I was just thinking was I'm best in gratitude when I have just like had a prayer answered. I just had a recent reconnection up with a bunch of old friends, and I hadn't been able to connect with them for various like emotional blocks and thinking bad thoughts of the past and things we had left with unresolved issues. So I started talking to Yumi, my thought adjuster, and asking that this be resolved, and incredible things are happening. So I get to be in gratitude all the time because we're texting and we're talking and we're healing, and there's an action I'm taking that then there's a response that is so far above and beyond what I could imagine that I know it's got to be the thought adjusters working together. You know what I mean? And so that fills me with a kind of gratitude that if I'm just going around on my normal day being busy human, there's a sort of offhand lick and promise to gratitude. I'll just, well, yeah, I'm grateful and thanks for this, and I'm glad I'm healthy, or some kind of comparison in my life. But I mean, somebody gets healed, you are so grateful for a long time. So it has to do with actually engaging with spirit in your life causes you to be way more grateful.
But you started out with an intent.
Yeah.
And you followed through.
Yeah, I did. I had to take some scary steps.
Yeah.
Dolores, how is because obviously you've probably you might be on mute still, but you've dealt with the issue of gratitude, I'm sure, with all of the ministry and things and retreats and things that you've done. What are your thoughts about gratitude as a part of life, as just a state of being?
It's essential. If you don't show gratitude, I mean, how I don't know how people can function without it, because it's a place of your heart that, especially when you don't expect something, sometimes God gives us little surprises and you go, oh, that was wonderful, thanks. I didn't really expect that. And you feel like an overflowing in your heart of you really care about me. I am your daughter. I'm here. You know my needs before I even know my needs. It's such an overwhelming feeling. I wouldn't trade it for the world. And I don't necessarily am conscious of it at all times, but usually when I say my evening prayers and stuff, I'm saying thank you for this day, and I'll be specific of little things that have happened. And like when my mother died, I was just so broken up. I mean, that was 40 years ago, and I still bothers me to think about it. But his response to me, dear Lord, help me with this pain that I'm feeling. I can't do this by myself, was such a gift. I felt like I was being showered from my head down to my feet with love, like a warm blanket. And I'll never forget that. And I didn't ask for it because I didn't know that could happen. But that was a prime example of gratitude for something that was totally unexpected.
The reason I asked you is I've known you now for 30 years. And if I had to think of somebody that I thought always seem to express coming from a place of gratitude, you're probably the person that I would think of. So,
Oh, thank you.
So,
That's, I think it's been more than 30.
yeah, for me, it's about 30. 92, I think, is when I met you. So,
Oh, okay.
yes. So,
Thank you, Bob. I appreciate your words.
mhm. What about you, Aline? I know you've spoken from that, mentioned the coming from gratitude before. What are your thoughts about how to live in gratitude? So,
Well, I find it's very easy because so many wonderful things happen to me through the day. I start my day in gratitude for all I have, and I end my day with gratitude for all I have and what happened. But all through the day, I keep getting these wonderful little gifts, and I just stop and I say, thank you, thank you, thank you. So it's sort of automatic with me.
that's great. So, yeah. I would say for me, I have the moments I can think of when I'm praying or something, I'll feel it and then it stays with me for a while. I wish when I had challenges, like when something difficult was happening, my response would be more like, thank you, God, for this opportunity to respond to this in a different way. I don't quite come across with
Not
that.
too often.
Yeah, so, but I'll work on that. Maybe the next time I get the same challenge again, I'll try to think of it in that way. And how can I deal with it?
I have a lot of gratitude for the natural beauty that I'm able to live in.
Mhm.
I'm not in a war-torn place, but I think of those who are. But when I can look at the gorgeous blue sky and go out and find out that we had 7/10 of an inch of rain, which we desperately needed, all that it does for the garden, I don't know. There's a lot of gratitude there.
Mhm.
My mother, again, an inspiration to me. That was something she often spoke about. We need to appreciate and be grateful for what we have and what we're able to give. And we need to be gracious when we are given compliments as well, to accept them. And the example that she gave once that I remember, she says, somebody said, oh, what a nice, pretty dress you're wearing today. And she said, oh, this old thing. And she stopped herself and said, this person gave me a gift. She said it was pretty. I need to be grateful for that and not think about my old dress.
Mhm.
And that was it was kind of a practical lesson, because it was an opportunity in a simple moment. She talked a lot about reciprocity too. That is, giving and receiving. And she had another saying that was passing the bucket. You're given much, and your job is to pass it on.
Exactly.
She called that passing the bucket.
That's very cool. I'm going to look at that a different way from here on out.
That I may not be able to help the same person who helped me, but I can help someone else. I can pass the bucket.
Yes, paying it forward. So,
President
Yeah,
Truman
another
had a sign on his desk said the buck stops here. I wonder if he meant the bucket.
there you go.
Well, it's assuming responsibility.
He was from Kansas, wasn't he?
Oh, yeah. Well, actually, he was from Missouri, but it's only about 45 miles from here, so I'll take it.
Okay.
Yeah. Same neighborhood.
Generally.
He
But we
was
do
from
live
Ken-
on a glorious planet, and I think every single day we're being given a gift if we just look up or out. Just the rain.
Yeah.
I think it's a wonderful thing to think about the gratitude that we all should have for our place and our opportunities to give in return.
I think this kind of plays in part to what Glauber was referring to before the meeting in his little email, even though it doesn't touch on it directly. He had shared a little thing, couple quotes from the Urantia book, and I'll read them out real quick. The moment the element of self-interest intrudes upon worship, that instant devotion translates from worship to prayer, and more appropriately should be directed to the person of the eternal Son or the Creator Son. And then the other one was, but in practical religious experience, there exists no reason why prayer should not be addressed to God the Father as a part of true worship. I like that contrast of still we can direct it towards God the Father. I'm sure it'll go where it needs to be, but he'd asked about maybe having a habit of stillness moment contained existing at the beginning can help us to experience our Father both in heaven and also as part of us. And so I wanted to use that as kind of a prelude to asking Glauber about those thoughts and maybe how they might mix with this idea of gratitude in our attitude. So.
Yes. I would like to share to split the idea first about worship and then gratitude. For what I shared about worship, I could understand that I'm experiencing it, that when I come in and just be self-contained with the consciousness that I am a spirit, so, and just existing without thinking or trying to do, just existing. When I put my focus in just be, I can perceive another presence in a static mode, just not moving my will or not moving my thought. And in this static mode, I can perceive and comprehend better what our breath and shared about when we put our self-interests. For example, when we ask for something by thought, or when we are desiring to do something. So we move from worship to prayer. And of course, it will arrive to our Father, but in seeking to feel presence, we change. So we move from feeling presence to communication. And is another channel. And it is practicing to be in a static mode is helping me to perceive the spirit I am and how equal I am with the Father. And this is helping me with my relationship with the Father. So in a gratitude way, now changing for gratitude. Gratitude for me is something that I'm grateful that my mom and my dad taught me it when I was a child. Because of course, when I was a child, I'm not aware about the process of gratitude. I just say thank you when I recognize that someone do something good to me. Someone did a favor to me. But the sequences of practicing gratitude, say thank you for this, for that, it helped me to enhance perception that someone is doing good to me. So my moral development was happening because that practice of saying thank you. It is something that I'm perceiving that you are doing good, and it's good for my personal spiritual progress. And of course, my consciousness was expanding in another ways. And now in this stage I am living here, comprehend this process, I can put intention to say thank you, but to add, thank you for praying to me. I'm now trying to be conscious about why I'm being grateful for. And it is helping me to recognize values, recognize things that my eyes cannot see. It is helping me in this way.
It's great. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah. I realized I wish my parents, I had a turbulent childhood. And so my parents didn't teach me gratitude, you know, and this was something that had to be a learned experience over lots of challenges over many decades. And so to recognize that, you know, my wife had a idyllic childhood. And so one of our biggest clashes is she just can't understand why I can't just do something. Like I can't just
Right.
be a certain way. And I realized that I have this conditioning that still comes in and reacts, especially when I'm not conscious. The conditioning comes in and takes over when I'm not thinking actively about it.
Yeah.
And so it's like that's our biggest conflict probably in our marriage is my words and my deeds don't always jive. You know? And so I would like them to jive, but they don't always follow that pattern. So
Back
and
to
so
intention,
yes.
Bob.
Yes, every time I try to redirect back. Yes.
But like Bob,
Yes.
it's like walking the talk. Okay?
We're about to hit our 24th anniversary, so at least I've scaled it back enough to keep with her. So, yeah.
That's
Yeah.
progress.
Yes. So yeah. But anyway, so yeah, that was just my thought in response was the idea that gratitude is sometimes a hard-earned process as well. So yes. So,
And I think that gratitude is something to be touched and to be learned. Some people don't give us thank you for something good that we did, not because they are so rude in the sense of I don't want to be grateful to you. Sometimes I was not, for example, I could be not touched to recognize that you are doing good to me. So it is not my fault. It's something that I can learn. And this consciousness about some people has been learned, if it has been touched about it, and some ones will be. And maybe can be us, the teacher, in this sense.
sure. Dolores or Alan, I see your guys' hands up.
Yeah, I'm thinking about
Good talk.
being grateful. I guess one of the things I feel like, well, I have this sense of sort of my worldview or universe view is there's light that in essence it comes from God. I mean, we see it both as light that is a physical thing that comes down on us, but it's also sort of like spirit connection. But I see it as light creates life or allows life to happen, and life allows love to happen. It's like sort of like it goes from light to life to love. And I don't know, to me, it's like spreading that. It's like, that's kind of, I'm alive. Part of my job being alive is to try to spread love, try to, you know, pass on the wondrous experience that I have. And I know that if I didn't have that, I'll call it light, if I didn't have that source to bring me to life, I wouldn't be able to have love. So anyway, it just trying to be positive and caring to other people, to me, you know, showing gratitude is important. It's just it makes my life better, and hopefully it makes other people's lives better as well.
I think you're pretty darn consistent.
I try to be.
You know, I start out with worship, every morning, and it goes straight to gratitude. And it starts getting self, like Glauber was talking about. It starts becoming about me and all of my gratitudes and everything I have. And then I go, oh, you've got to get your prayers done. You've got to do your prayers. And then I'll start praying for other people and other situations. And then I go back to gratitude again. And so I have to keep myself on a line, because I could go on and on and on. But what you were saying about not looking at it as, with wisdom comes responsibility. But you were saying is forgetting that there's a lesson in everything, that I call them lessons and blessings. And if each one of us will look back where we were 5 years ago in our spiritual growth and our attitudes and our worship, and then 10 years ago, and then 20 years ago, and then go, oh, what a good person. Look at your growth, and give ourselves a pat on the back that we are growing. That it's like we're doing it quicker. It used to take a month to figure, oh my gosh, that's what that was for.
Yeah.
Now it might take a week.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
Good one.
Michael and Pamela, I know you've talked about how wanting to live in a place where you're not letting all the stuff seep in from the outside world in a way that would that must have something to do with living in gratitude, right? Do either one of you have any thoughts on how you live that way, or what your desire is to live that way?
That's just interference. That's the news, you mean?
Just everything you talk, just in
Yes.
general, talking about how not to get
Yeah.
too torn up about any one thing, but to kind of stay focused on, eyes on the prize, so to speak. So
The news is directed to cause stress
Mhm.
and distraction. That's what it's for. That's the bread and butter of journalism. As a response to Glauber's inquiry and illuminations about gratitude and what it's for, and Dolores's metaphor, I guess, about the gratitude washing over you. I had an experience, my crossover experience, when the switch was flipped. It was as if I were gratitude itself,
Wow.
and I was standing under a waterfall of mercy, and one was the other. Just it's palpable. You could feel the weight of the mercy, and that's what I was glad about, the gratitude. And in everyday life, it seems as if the true you, your soul, your subconscious, that part of you which is the other, you have to compare with your it goes along with your waking consciousness, your here and now.
It's great, Michael.
I lost my train of thought. Yeah, the real you is always in a state of gratitude, but for the recognition of it. I could see that in the crossover experience because there was gratitude. I didn't need to be prompted. It just, that's who you are.
Yeah,
Just
Yeah.
there.
that makes sense.
Did you have anything to add to that, Pam? Any thoughts on yourself?
Well, I believe that my experience has developed from being gratitude for all the material stuff, because it's so so easy to lose it. House, car, job, etc. Has moved into gratitude for the deepening of relationship and the deepening of love and the deepening of service to others in the attempt to do the will, God's will, through my will. And Lorene's comment about developing that spiritual growth from 10 years ago, 20 years ago, onto 2 years ago, or even tomorrow, is to me a reality, because I've seen it in myself and I've seen it in Michael and others that I'm associated with. And so if you want to sum it all up, from the time I get up in the morning, I am very grateful because I got up, for one. You know, I was alive. I'm alive. And I mean, who can not be grateful for that under any circumstance? And so throughout the day, my day shows that I am very grateful for my relationships and how they affect others, and how those other relationships affect me in my growth, because that's what it's all about. It's love.
Yeah.
And if that makes sense, then great.
It does.
Alan knows what you're talking about.
He's nodding his head. I don't know if he's a bobber or what, but he's nodding his head. I appreciate it, Alan.
Scott, how about you? I know I've often seen you as a person that comes across as a very hopeful, and despite challenges, thinks that the world can change for the better. So you obviously must come from some place of gratitude and how you view the potentials. What are your thoughts along the lines of gratitude?
Well, I think I started each day just by giving thanks for all our many blessings. And when we're thankful, as some of the other people have been mentioning, it was all just resounding well with me, because when we start that way and we realize that different things, you know, maybe a lot of things are going not so well, or challenges, whatever, but you can put yourself into that space and just enjoy the communion of yourself with our Heavenly Father and our unseen friends. And I made a couple of little notes here, but like the deepening, we just talked a minute ago, when talking about deepening of relationships, and that's something I've noticed as I've chronologically matured, how I just treasure those relationships so much, treasure getting to know my adult children as adults, and to have shared their lives with them, and to see them picking up on the best parts of my wife and myself as well, and carrying that forward is just such a blessing, right? And giving thanks for being introduced to the Urantia book by somebody I could have met only by chance, perhaps. You know, maybe I would have come across the book another way as well. But you know, you're just at a party. He turned out to be the cousin of somebody that was a good friend of mine that his mother told me about. And we just hit it right off, you know. But it's hard not to have a good time when you're at a fraternity house party with a live band and,
I wouldn't know.
you know, beaucoup to alcohol.
There's a different level of gratitude involved in
and other
that.
treats, other smokable treats as well.
Not the next day, though.
So we hit it off very well. But I was also, while you guys were talking earlier, and Bob, it's just see me working with my hands a bit. I don't know if any of you have ever worked on you know, the energy you have between your hands and how much energy there is to be played with, you know. I'm just trying to remember the name we called it.
So Reiki.
Reiki?
Yeah, it was sort of a Reiki function. I think we're sort of we're playing with light. We're playing with spirit, and you can help direct that and develop it.
Yeah, treat your water with it.
Well, I did that actually.
Yes.
with my hands, and I was pouring it over myself to some extent to help with some healing I need that Bob had noticed.
I threw my intentions towards you as well because I thought that's what you were doing, was also applying healing for yourself. So I added my energy to that. So
yeah, thank you.
yes.
And we were playing, we used to call it playing with light balls at early study group meetings. I can remember people talking about that concept. And I was just grasping for that word. It's like playing with light, and you're playing with light balls, and you can juggle them because you don't have physical limitations like you do in real juggling, you know. But you can direct them to people you think are in need of that light and that healing, as you were doing to me when I was working with that light. I think Glauber would be an absolute superstar in this category too.
Well, the light juggling, yes, he'd be a good light juggler.
Light juggling, and just being able to massage and direct that light. You know? And it's something I haven't done for a long time. And I'm going to try to, you know, maybe help my wife of 35 years with some of the health issues she's having. To,
Nice.
you know, while she waits for, you know, potential of a knee surgery, et cetera, right, to help her get on better.
I wanted to add to your thoughts there, because when I said that prayer of intention before we started really directing our energy, the first thought that came back to me was, but are you willing to accept it yourself? And it made me realize that you really can't direct intention and energy to another if you're not willing to allow the same healing and energy and intention to yourself. And so I had to stop, pause, open myself up, and allow the energy to come into me so that then I could, in my mind, redirect and apply to where my intention was or whatever. So, but it does make you realize that maybe there's a two-part process in healing, that the healer must also be willing to heal themselves or allow the healing for themselves, you know. So it was just an interesting thought since you were working on trying to apply that for yourself there. So
They only have to intend to
yes.
accept it. They have to intend to accept it. They may not be able to, because I don't think you have to be healed to be a healer.
Mhm.
I think you can intend and energy can flow through you to other people without you having to be like completely healed first or anything.
No, I don't
But
think-
if you can intend to be,
Yes. It may open up for a moment. It may not be a continuous because you may have other issues, but even if for a moment you can open yourself as a conduit, then that energy can flow. And so it may not be like total healing, like you say, but it'd be like almost like having the moment. So,
yeah, because I think healers do it without, healers
sure.
can do it. But
It's
Scott,
not-
Scott, are you talking about Qigong? Are you talking about the energy flow of Qigong through the centers and the building it up? Is it
that's-
Qigong?
No, it's not. That's not a term I'm familiar with.
Okay.
I could have read it. I read a whole bunch of esoteric books from different spiritual shops and things. Once I got introduced to the Urantia book, I was a voracious reader, but those were the times before you had a lot of responsibilities to distract you.
I see your hands up over there, Glauber. What do you want to add there?
Yes, I would like to add an interesting thing, but it was for me, that about the religious life of Jesus. In his religious life, when he was here, just two values he used it to live here. One was faith, the other will. So, and it is the two elements that we use in healing ourselves on others, as we are talking about here. The first one, as you said, if I don't believe, I don't accept. So I'm not able to receive and not to give because I don't believe it. So I don't have faith in such thing. And the second one is my will. If I want to receive or if I want to give. And healing others, I think that the lesson to be gathered from that in this ministry, in this service, is our personal practice in practicing faith and practicing will, to move our will. When we get these lessons, how to faith and how to will, we can heal ourselves. And I think that the most important thing after we love the others, healing them, is to instruct them how to do the same. How they can grow in faith and grow and move in his will with intention in order that he can heal himself. Because if we just heal others, we become a source of healing and not necessarily a brother. They will come to us just to receive healing and not to grow in other values like fellowship. Maybe they know how to be loved, but they didn't know the other face, how to love. So I think after the Spirit of Truth speaking in another group in the Spiritism, he said, first love, then instruct. So it was helpful to me that I can heal others. I can move my energy to others. But the real point is when he is good, he is able to listen after he is healed, is to teach him how to grow in faith and how to grow in using your will to heal yourself and go in peace, as Jesus said.